You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
All right, hope everybody had a great weekend. Welcome to the Monday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Bet365. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill. And Rosie, I was looking at the schedule for the Stanley Cup Final before doing today's show and realized Game 4, not till Thursday. So how about an extra day off after tonight's game?
They're really dragging this one out. I don't know, man. After the first couple of games, I don't mind waiting a little bit. Is this ever a series, man? I just, tell me what was more exciting hockey than this. I mean, even go back to the 80s Oilers, man. This is absolutely on fire. Start to finish, every period. It's unbelievable.
Man, it's reminiscent of like a boxing match in the 90s, like blow for blow. And you sort of forget Zach Hyman's not playing too, man. And this guy is an incredible hockey player. And you wonder, who knows what happens in this series. If Edmonton loses, a guy like Hyman certainly puts you over the top. But I still feel like the Oilers are going to win. But yeah, the first couple games have been tremendous, especially for a rematch. There's a lot of buzz surrounding this series. And I just feel like it kills the momentum, waiting. And I get the travel, but it doesn't make much sense now that Monday for Game 3, same location for Game 4, but it's Thursday. All I feel good about is for the media standpoint. You get an extra day in Florida. That must feel pretty good too.
Yeah, I guess those logistics work out. I don't know why that is. End of the season. I mean, I always wondered when you're making an NHL schedule, like how on earth do they do it with multiple teams, multiple buildings? You know how busy those buildings can be with different events and shows and concerts, and they share it with NBA teams oftentimes, and it's just a logistical nightmare if you ask me. Somehow they get it done fairly seamlessly. Then people will bitch because it's like, why the hell am I doing a back-to-back here? It's like, well, geez, you know how many moving parts there are here? And then you go to the postseason where you don't know who's going to be doing, you don't know who's going to be playing at this point in time.
Yeah.
You still got to book stuff for the building. I would imagine it has a lot to do with that. And again, we can sit back on our armchairs and complain, but I know that I wouldn't want to be the guy doing the scheduling for the National Hockey League.
Yeah, and from my understanding, it's working around the NBA final, which just pulls in crazy numbers. So I get it. You don't want to go head-to-head with the NBA. Their numbers are insane. And I wish one day the NHL can get to that level. But you're so right. I would love to be a fly in the wall with TV execs and the NHL trying to manufacture a schedule for the Stanley Cup Final. There's no way you should have to drag out a series over 3 weeks. Like it loses and deflates so much momentum, especially for teams not in there. That's my wonder. Guys like us, like we cover the Maple Leafs, we care about the Maple Leafs, and yeah, we love hockey. Maybe we're not prime examples, but you're like casual fan of a team. How do they feel having to sit through things for 3 weeks? You sort of forget what happened in the previous game. Our Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. But, man, yeah, it's been a great series, and back and forth. Corey Perry, 40 years old, like score another big goal, ties that game. But the Panthers, they always seem to respond, and they did in double OT the other night.
Yeah, who stood out to you? Corey Perry, Brad Marchand,
same guys,
Sam
dude.
Bennett,
Yeah.
obviously Connor and Leonidas on the other side, but God, there's these, I don't know, if we're in that spot where there's still the old guard of hard hockey players, like men, like Marchand and Perry and these types of guys, do you need to value them higher, even though they're a little bit older than you would in the past, and kind of change your thinking on the age? Because guys with balls, with experience that play that style of hockey, and again, they're harder and harder to find. Do you have to start valuing those guys more, even at the end of their career, because of what they bring to the table this day and age?
You almost have to. And that's an elite point, because the DNA of both teams have been the vets. Even Nate Schmidt, another vet. The guy has been an unbelievable pickup for the Florida Panthers, and just seems like play after play he's making when the going gets tough in the most important time of year. And all I could think about is, as you were saying that, can you envision a pathway where the Leafs are in the Stanley Cup Final and play after play is being made by Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, for example, and Nylander? I watch Edmonton, and it's like McDavid is playing like street hockey. Like he literally is just chilling and making the most unbelievable plays. I can't even make that toe drag like on the driveway or in beer league when nobody's trying to defend me. And this guy's doing this against Ekblad and Barkov. Like McDavid specifically, and I throw Draisaitl on that combo too. These guys do stuff like on a gamely basis where you're like, how is this possible?
I mean, yes. They play like they're on their toes and they're just hunting all the time, right? You can see it on their face. They're looking through the tops of their eyes and they're bare, and then they just slip into this thing and boom, they bang it. And it's just like that winning goal the other night. People have been playing it on a loop because it's just such a high IQ a hockey play by every one of the guys that's just oozing confidence and they're hunting, right? And when we watch the Leafs in the playoffs, it's like they're hoping. One team's hunting, the other team's hoping. And when you say, can I envision Matthews and Nylander and Marner making those kinds of plays? Well, yeah, I can envision it. They're very highly skilled individuals. We've seen them make millions of plays. They're very capable of making plays. It's just they can't seem to find those holes when it's as intensive a game as it has been, and it would be in the final here. These teams, obviously, I tweeted that they are head and shoulders above the rest of the league. And I really think that this series is showing that that's true. They as a team, their hockey IQs is so high, and all those little things that coaches preach and you try to, bring into the DNA of your team all season long. Everyone's trying to do that to become these two teams, and they are a bit with their styles of play. There is different ways to go about it, but without question, they are all on the same page and firing on all cylinders, and every team's trying to get that way. And I just think these are the two teams that are just heads and shoulders above everyone else in that department.
And it's like a chest hair series where it's like, you're right. The vets, the old guard are just doing their thing. And like even Perry at 40 and like, he's still got many years left, I think. Brad Marchand entering free agency. He's doing his thing. Even a guy like Bennett's a bit longer in the tooth. He's played some games in this league. And getting back to your point, I think it just proves that you need guys at the very least to be able to be successful in league. Guys like that. And that's been a massive story for me, is like everywhere you look, specifically in this cup final, it's a veteran doing their thing. But yeah, you can't look past star players being star players at important times. And I know we like to underscore that, especially covering the Maple Leafs, but it's true, man. You get the depth guys, you get your vet guys, you get your star players. You put that all together, it brings success in the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, I think they're just they've got everyone going, man. And like I said, if you're looking at free agents and a guy's 36 years old, I know in the past it's kind of like vehicles. Like 30 years ago, a vehicle hits 100,000 clicks and you're like, oh man, I don't know. Like, and like, you talk to the old farmers or your parents or something. Oh, those miles on those vehicles. I don't know. You got to get rid of it. It's going to blow. Like, when's the last time you saw a tranny drop or an engine blow up or a car with its hood up with steam coming out of it? It doesn't really happen anymore. And I think you got to change your mentality about these things. Like, they're good to go a little bit longer than they used to be. And especially when you talk about, you talk about health and nutrition and science and rehabilitation and their access to doctors and everything. I think these guys at 36, 37, 38 are a lot better than they were 30 years ago. And those types of guys, I don't know if it's generational or when they were born or how they were raised or the hockey they played growing up, they're a lot more effective than, say, a 24-year-old kid who still has yet to find his balls. And I think you're seeing it right here in the playoffs with all these veterans stepping up to the plate and just being monsters, man.
I was just marveled again at game 2. And like, who else? If you were to put a list of players who were to score an OT for the Florida Panthers, it's Brad Marchand. And I know he's won just one Stanley Cup, but the amount of big plays this guy has made in his career is pretty incredible. He just, like he did it in the Leafs series, the OT winner he scored, it just always seems like he's able to rise up to the occasion. And maybe we see this more clearly because of the team we cover and how many guys fail to do that. But it just always seems to be him who's the guy who elevates, who scores that massive goal, and just the response by his teammates just all over him. That was some big money stuff there.
he's just flying out there. Like he's
Yeah.
getting his nose into everything, no pun intended, but he is just on his toes, leading the charge, flying into every situation, and inevitably you crash the net that amount of times, you buzz the wing and cut to the middle that amount of times over and over again. It's hard to defend. It's easy to defend a guy that pulls up on the half wall and looks for the cross ice pass. That's easy to clog up. That's easy to leave him there. You know, as a defenseman, you're taught, like, leave those guys to the outside. If they want to hang out there, you're fine. They're doing your job for you. You're in the middle of the ice. You're clogging up the lanes. You're giving them the outside, which he can have all day long. It's when they start cutting to the middle and driving the net. And oh God, who's got who? They're crisscrossing. Who's got what? They're flying down on here. They're coming near our goalie. Do I take them out? Do I not? It's hard to defend. And you watch this kind of hockey, and the Maple Leafs are capable of playing really good hockey in the playoffs, and they did, but just not consistently enough. You look at their bad games and you compare it to this series, you can see where they're falling short and what they need to do to get to where they want to go.
And I give it to these guys too in Florida and Edmonton, because sometimes you get to this level in the season, the level of hockey isn't great. It's been outstanding in the first two games. Like, both teams have brought it, which you love to see too, right? Because there's a lot of fatigue this time. Your guys are banged up. I'm sure they are, but they're giving it their all, man. You can tell on both sides how much this thing means to them.
Yeah, and you didn't even mention they've both went to the finals last year and the year before for Florida. Like, that adds up on a guy. Your summers, like, the season is a grind. I know everyone, you play beer league and you go out there on Sunday and snap it around and have a beer after. Man, guys do this for a living. What an absolute life. Like, and it is, but you have all that tension and that pressure and that desire to perform. You go through injuries. You're trying to keep your body working right. You get the shit kicked out of you. You get injured. You're trying to rehab while you're playing, keep your job, move up in the lineup, contract year, all that stuff that's on your mind. Grind. You get the summer to kind of, refocus and heal and get your energy back and get your mind where it needs to be. And it goes by, like, say you miss the playoffs, that summer goes by so fast, and you're back at it. Oh boy, we got a whole 8 months of, training camps coming on here. Mr. Coach has got a big heart on you, yelling everywhere, we're going to change your identity. Oh man, it's hard to kind of keep yourself up for that, no matter who you are. And if you don't even get that summer, a quick little 2 months, and you're back at it, and you do that another year, and then the next year, like, mentally and your body, it's very difficult. And even more reason to praise these two teams that are playing at that level after lots of reason to be fatigued, man. I don't see any of it. These guys are buzzing, both teams. And like I said, they've both had those summers shortened. They've both had very intense hockey seasons, and it doesn't seem to be slowing them down. Another testament to their skill and their talent and their ability to play as a team. It is damn good hockey, man. Like, when's the last time you had this much fun watching? Like, it's like, oh my God. Like, and maybe it's, I don't know, like, who's playing? They're still playing defense. They still have their goaltenders playing well, but it is just oozing skill and playmaking ability, man. It's so fun to watch.
Yeah, and I think, to your point, the two best teams are squaring off again, and we're seeing the byproduct of that here in the Stanley Cup Final. So certainly looking forward to Game 3 tonight from Sunrise. Also looking forward to today's guest in about 10 minutes or so. My former co-host with Leafs Nation, former Maple Leafs GM, longtime media member in this market. Gord Stellick's going to drop by, and I'm sure we'll touch base on the past, but also ask him about the current team. I can count on one hand how many people are bigger Leafs fans than Gord Stellic. This guy bleeds the blue and white. So I'm looking forward to touching base here with Gordo in about 10 minutes here.
Yeah, pretty wicked. Not very often you get to talk to a guy with the experience media-wise covering the Leafs, and has also literally been in that chair being the general manager of that team. Pretty awesome. So look forward to that as well.
It's got a lot of Ballard stories, man. If we just sit down with Gordo, he'll tell you about that era. Just a wild, chaotic time to be a fan and even a member of that organization. So Gord Stellic coming up in about 10 minutes here on Leafs Morning Take. At the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. And Rosie, I don't know if you saw this. Well, you did. But the kings of the Friday news drop do it again. Derek Lalonde hired as the new assistant coach, taking over a week after it was announced Lane Lambert would be going to Seattle. And I, for one, did not see this coming. But the more I view it, I really, really like the fit of bringing this guy in.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We had him on this show. You saw him on the panel a lot. And it's always funny because I remember people were always like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? I'm like, oh, Newsy, like he was on our show, good guy. We were bullshitting with him behind the scenes and everything. By
Yeah.
all accounts, really good person. I would believe
Mhm.
is my impression of him. But obviously, loads of hockey experience as a head coach and as an assistant coach. What I really like about this hire is that he has seen John Cooper at his best, who I think is one of the best coaches in the National Hockey League and has had tons of success because of it. So he was there watching John Cooper, understanding, picking up on that, whether he, adapts his style towards John Cooper or not, doesn't really matter. You're just there. You see what it looks like. You take that experience. They won cups there when he's in Tampa. So he's seen the grind. He's seen the drive. He sees what it takes and what you have to go through to get to that mountain. He's got that experience. And the other thing is he's been in the Atlantic Division for so long. He can jump with both feet in and just start going. He knows these teams. He's been doing this as his job in this division for years, and he's very familiar with it. It's not like you go out west or you go to the Central and you're like, geez, what the hell is this team do with their penalty power play? I got to do some research, and then you're going to be learning all the time. Man, that guy's better than I thought he was. No, he knows this thing like the back of his hand. So some familiarity there too, and it'll be interesting. He likes doing the PK. We knew that was going to be taken over with this vacancy with the Maple Leafs, and by all accounts, I think a pretty smart hire.
Yeah, and I think to your point, the familiarity is what got me. Like he knows the division inside and out. Coach of Detroit for the last 2.5, 3 seasons with Tampa before that, so he knows the Bostons, he knows the Floridas very, very well. Of note, as you just referenced, the PK specifically in 4 seasons as the PK guy in Tampa, they clicked at 82.7%, third best in the league over that span. I don't know if you can duplicate that with different players here in Toronto, but it makes me feel good. I thought the Maple Leafs PK and D in general took a step forward this season. I still think there's another level to get to when you combo a Lalonde with like a Craig Berube. I think that brings impact and a different sort of voice. I had a buddy, big time coaching guy, coaches, we'll just say in hockey. And he was bringing up the fact that Lalonde's system is really, really good. And he's a systems-oriented guy. And he really praised the move. He's not a big fan of the Maple Leafs, but he praised the move. He said it's a really, really good fit. You're right. Like the Cups do it for me too. Like it's recent memory. It's with John Cooper. And I think all you want in this position is somebody to support the head coach. And I like this ideology specifically in Toronto. And recent memory, they've done it with Hackstall and Lambert, bringing in somebody with coaching experience, head coaching experience. And it's like you have 2 head coaches on that bench. I love that.
Yeah, kind of. Like we were talking about, Tortorella or Boudreau or these different guys. I think that they're too much of a head coach. You know what I mean? There's certain guys that can't step back and be the assistant coach, or they wouldn't be good at it, or they're not familiar with it. I have no problem with Lalonde having head coaching experience, but he's not a guy who's going to want to like really put his stamp on this team or really believes in this thought process or style of play and really wants to implement that and might be kind of going against the grain with Berube. Like it's not going to be any of that. And I really thought if you bring in some of these guys who are just, cup winners, born and bred head coaches, and you're like, oh, look at all his experience, shove him in that role. And then all of a sudden Berube, maybe even just feels slighted sometimes or challenged here and there, or you feel like this guy's kind of going a different direction, and you're thinking about the little meetings he's having with those players over there. Like, is he telling them what? Are we on the same page here? I think it's easy to get off course when you got too many captains in the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with this, no issues, I don't think at all. Yes, he's got the experience of a head coach, but I think he understands exactly what he needs to do, his experience level. And like I said, to start off, all the boxes checks. I think it's a pretty smart hire, and we'll see if he can put his stamp. Especially with special teams being systems orientated and really understanding like what works and what clicks. And you've seen, the best of the best with Stanley Cup winning teams and how they go about it and what systems need to be implemented. I think that's going to serve the Maple Leafs pretty well.
And personnel is going to be big too, right? Like I think now that you got your coaching staff in play, he's coming back next season, you could sort of focus on the roster. And yeah, that's the next domino to fall. Is like we really haven't seen much movement either way when it comes to the roster in the next month. it's kind of intriguing. July 9th, 2025. Well, this team, dude, will look a lot different than it does today as we get closer and closer to free agency here.
June 9th. Yes.
Well, July 9th, a month from now. Yeah.
Oh, in a month. Yeah, no question, man. Lots of dominoes to fall, you would think. Sometimes there's always that build up. Same with the trade deadline. Like, oh my gosh, here it comes. And then it's just kind of like crickets. And you're like, are we going to do some stuff? But inevitably,
Yeah.
things are going to happen. Signings will happen. It is exciting. I don't know what direction they're going to go. We'll be breaking it down, obviously, here with all kinds of options, hot takes, producer Vic coming up with all kinds of wild stuff. It's an exciting time of year, and yeah, like you said, in a month's time, I hope that this team has a look to it that we can all get behind.
Definitely, and there's been a lot of moving parts out there on a daily basis. I guess some reports are coming out today that Max Pacioretty is leaning towards a return, and that would probably be in Toronto. Do you like the idea of bringing back Pacioretty? He scored some big goals in the playoffs for the Leafs.
Yeah, I think so. He really did, and it's just all dollar figures and slotting on what's this guy's role and are they depth pieces and how far down the depth. Like, money is obviously a big thing, but like Pacioretty came in, they took a shot on him. Didn't know what they were going to get with his injury history. No, he didn't really have a lot of leverage as far as other options. We'll give you a PTO. You can come on to camp and you can try out. Well, by all accounts, he looked great. I think he scored his first game in the exhibition season, was adopting a role that they needed, and he filled it really well. I mean, he was banging and crashing. Some of the biggest hits of the entire year were from Max Pacioretty. And then when, the puck came on his stick, he was a guy that has that type of pedigree who can bury it, and he did exactly that. So I don't mind bringing him back. It's just I'm always interested in where are they slotting these guys, like, and what are they going to bring in on top of him. I just want to look at the roster as a whole and say, ooh, baby, that's got some layers to it. There's some depth there. You can roll lines. You got different styles of play down into your middle six and your bottom six. Like, you just want to check a lot of the boxes and be prepared for any style of play that comes your way, as we're seeing in the playoffs here. You kind of have to have a little bit of everything.
A little jam for sure. And I, for one, I wonder where Pacioretty would thrive the most in a Maple Leafs lineup. I felt like he did his best work in the top six. I just don't know if the longevity's there. Like, I know he finished strong, but he gets hurt a lot. And I wonder how that fit looks if he plays in the bottom six as opposed to with like a John Tavares, or maybe he ends up on the third line with John Tavares. That's why there's so many moving parts. Maybe we have this conversation in 3 weeks from now when we know if this team has another top six center into the mix and JT can slot in 3C. But I think he makes the most sense, in my opinion. Maybe you disagree, with a playmaker, because I still think Pacioretty has some finishing ability. We saw that in the playoffs. We saw that when he did, in fact, play some games in the regular season. But I think the physical aspect is the biggest component, biggest reason you want him back in the mix, probably, right?
Yeah, I think so. And when you're trying to find those physical guys that play heavy, like me, I was more one-dimensional, right? The physicality was there, the running around, the hitting and scrapping and stuff like that. But nowadays, you can't be that one-sided. You have to kind of have everything. And like we said, he was a premier goal scorer in this league, the captain of the Montreal Canadiens. Like, he was a high-end player. He's on the back nine of his career, certainly, and has to kind of reevaluate his role. Not a lot of guys can do that. Some guys say, I refuse, I'm still a goal scorer, blah, blah, blah. They're a little stubborn, a little pig-headed, and they get shown the door in a hurry, and then their career is over. He is smart enough where he has said, I realize that I'm not going to be this guy. I'm not taking William Nylander's job. I need to reinvent myself a little bit, bring that physicality and kind of play a role that they're lacking. And smart players, which he certainly is, looks at the depth of a roster and says, what do they need? What are they asking for me? And by all accounts, he adapted very well, had that physicality. Again, some of the biggest hits of the year were Max Pacioretty. So it's an interesting thing. They're trying to change the DNA of this team. I understand it. But if you bring in some of the same players, but shuffle them down, bring in some new blood more in the top six, I'm all about it. That just brings depth in my mind.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. The following interview is brought to you by our friends over at Greta Bar YYZ, the ultimate hangout spot in Toronto. Whether you're catching the big game, diving into some classic arcade action, or grabbing some unreal street food, Greta Bar's got you covered. Planning a team building night or a corporate event, Greta Bar is the perfect place to bring the crew together for good vibes and great memories. For more info, head on over to gretabar.com. That's gretabar.com. 590 King Street West, Greta Bar. Let the games begin as we bring in the one and only El Gordo himself, Gord Stellic. Gordo, thank you so much for doing this. Maybe you want to get into the conversation. We're just talking about Max Pacioretty. Would you bring him back?
Yeah, would bring him back. Absolutely. It was funny, the start of the playoffs, and people were saying, what's he going to do? And I liked having all these different spices, and he's gone deep in the playoffs before. And it got me in preseason that the physicality of him, that he understood he's not the 6-time 30-goal scorer with the Montreal Canadiens or the role he had with Vegas. Like, he played a more physical style of game. We see Corey Perry doing that and others that have done it. So, I'm very bullish on Max Pacioretty.
Mm-hmm. Gord, at the end of the season, we had the press conference, and Tree Living, brought up we need to change our DNA. To you, what did that mean?
Well, I think Maple Leaf fans were glad to hear we're not going to go stick with the process, the frickin' process, the process. Then they just got tired of it whatever it may be, So it was a pretty strong statement. And the year before was the first time when Sheldon Keefe took accountability that, we're great in the regular season, but we have not done it in the playoffs. So I'm paying the price, and fired his Leaf coach. And as we know, caught on with another NHL team. So I heard, like you and Nick talking about it, that's the question mark about what does he mean exactly? Like, Mitch Marner, is a hell of a hockey player. He controls if he's going to go somewhere else, and does that mean it? He certainly didn't come out boldly say we're going to do anything but to keep Mitch Marner here. So, that seems like a big piece to change going somewhere else. But what is it that in the playoffs, year after year after year, I look back at it, two guys that would have fit the bill, Nazem Kadri and Zach Hyman. Now, you can't cry over spilt milk. There are reasons they left, although Hyman's contract one I still can't believe. But anyway, so it's not, getting rid of you're going to miss Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner helped you get to the playoffs every year. What's he done in the playoffs? Well, basically like everyone else has done, not enough to get you to whatever the promised land is. So I'm interested in Brad Treliving. That was a pretty bold, blunt remark.
It was. And Gord, I was going to ask you, because you obviously have the unique aspect. You've been an executive with the Maple Leafs. You've also been in media for a long, long time. What have you thought of sort of the PR of this whole thing, the campaign, if you want to call it that? Because I'm with you. Like, there's been strong wording, I think, for the first time in a while when it comes to the Maple Leafs and the message they're trying to portray, at least in the media here.
So, Nick, I go back to the Columbus series when they lost. One of the series they should have won. And Kyle Dubas's focus was, I'm pissed off at the criticism Mitch Marner's getting. And I kept thinking, what are you talking about? You're talking social media? You're talking the lowest of lows? Like, really? They should be pissed off at themselves, right? And then the next year, Montreal, oh golly gee, like there never seemed to be any reaction. I use the analogy, it's like people that entitled, spoiled kids that keep denting their parents' car. And the parent goes, oh, don't worry, you can use dad's car. We'll take care of it. Oh, I dented dad's car. Well, you can use Uncle Louie's car. Don't just leave it. We'll take it in. And every year, same kind of thing, just never any kind of like, man, I'm pissed off. Like we really let an opportunity when we saw Connor McDavid behind the scenes last year. So I'm not saying the players are all like that at all, but there certainly is a very chill, personable, very comfortable being in Toronto, which is great group that lacks whatever that element, that accountability, whatever it may be. And I think it came from within the organization as well. Just relax, stop criticizing them. We're on the right track. We believe in it.
And you mentioned Mitch Marner. I think the writing's on the wall that he's probably going to walk away this year, barring some spectacular turnaround. If that does in fact happen, how do you think he will be remembered? Massive point guy, very talented player, homegrown guy, was here for a long time, but it seems like he's kind of lighting a match as he's leaving. What do you think the perception of Mitch Marner will be if he in fact leaves?
Well, it's funny. I'm trying to remember others, like, when Doug Gilmour went to New Jersey kind of with a whimper, not a bang, and Darryl Sittler certainly when he exited. But then, of course, you get embraced. The Maple Leaf fans appreciate what they bring to the table. Mitch, that's why this criticism of Mitch Marner, I kept saying, like, unless you're looking for it, I don't get it. I love Mitch Marner. Who wouldn't? What a phenomenal, entertaining player. What a great player to watch. 2-time first All-Star. So I would think at the end of it all, when, again, that's a long way down the road, that he'll be remembered and embraced for whatever number of years it's been. What is it, 9 or whatever it is? That, wow. But again, like Kevin Garnett with the Minnesota Timberwolves, he didn't get to the promised land until he went to the Boston Celtics, right? He was the best kind of player they had. And, maybe that's kind of a similar thing right now, because it just, it's, hey, 9 years, that's the longest streak of any NHL team, 9 consecutive years making the playoffs. I mean, that's a real great accomplishment. But it's the next part about being one of only 3 teams have not gone to the Final Four in the last 23 years. And Seattle Kraken are one of them, Columbus Blue Jackets, and Toronto Maple Leafs, and so that's the stat you look back. You don't look at 1967, but you look back at post-Pat Quinn, post-Pat Burns. That team went to the Final Four 4 times in 10 years.
I love you stretching your range to the NBA too, Gord. That's some good stuff right there, buddy. But you're so right. Like the post-mortem, I've almost become numb every season, and you and I work together, and I think we did that Columbus series and the Montreal series, and we were just floored. Like, this can't happen again, and it happens again, and it happens again. I'm happy that finally there's going to be some resolution where we think this roster is going to look completely different. And I just like the fact that Tree Living came out and said such. Like, it was a definition of insanity. People in this podcast hate when I say that, but we were talking about, changing out the core 4 or mixing it up like 5 years ago. And the fact that we're still here having this conversation is insane to me.
Yeah. It seemed, well, again, they stuck with the process, and it seemed like, and you could argue, should Nylander have been the chip they traded? You could argue that, but it just happens to be he's got the big contract, and Marner's deal is up now. And so, it's funny because, again, talking about other sports, we're talking to a fan base that has seen the Jays get eliminated. Like, was it against Seattle? They had like a 10-run lead and they blew it. Then they yanked Barrios after he had 21 pitches. Then Guerrero got picked off second base, and no big deal, all part of the process. You think about what Masai did in 2018 when they got swept in 4, and he fired Dwayne Casey, and he made the Kawhi Leonard trade. Like, that would not have happened had they not exited that way. Now, there really isn't a Kawhi Leonard comparable. I don't know, although you look at Florida with Seth Jones and whatever, and but just different ways to go looking at things. And certainly Brad Treliving, to his credit, was dealt a tough card in Calgary when Johnny Gaudreau at the 11th hour changed his mind, and he had to, it hurt them in the short term, but he had to make some kind of bold moves to address the Matthew Tkachuk situation a year earlier. So yeah, it seems like where before they weren't open, they kept doubling down, that your core 4 forwards would be paid a disproportionate amount of the cap money. And it worked, and then it didn't work when it really mattered.
Mm-hmm. As we look forward, we were talking before you got on, like some of these veterans, Corey Perry and Brad Marchand and Bennett to a degree as well. Do people have to start looking at these veteran guys as maybe not so much of like damaged goods, as they come from an era that just has that playoff style of mentality, whether it's their generation or what you want to call it? But you're seeing these guys produce at an age where you're used to seeing guys tail off. Do you think their value is going to continue to hold into this free agency?
So it's interesting, and you mentioned those particular instances. The concept I totally agree with, particularly, like, don't worry about the regular season. Talk about what they can do in the playoffs, what they bring when it really matters. And and there's a fine line, as you know, between a veteran and being old. So a good veteran player versus, and it's different for everybody. Like, in the case of, Patrick Marleau he didn't have that kind of personality that, say, Corey Perry or Brad Marchand have, but he was a solid, I think he was 38 at the time, whatever he was, pickup for them. Joe Thornton wasn't, his best days were behind him and that. I think there's a lot of value about and those players want to play. First of all, 2-part. They want to play in a good situation. And in a lot of ways, they can only succeed in a good situation. They're not looking to start and grow with the Chicago Blackhawks or the San Jose Sharks. So, I just think, those and Max Pacioretty is one of those. Like Max Pacioretty, who, wasn't brought in as a trade deadline acquisition, but showed more his worth in the playoffs than any other time of the season. That you've got to be open and aware and cognizant of that.
July 1's approaching, Gordon. We're watching the Stanley Cup Final. 40-year-old Corey Perry. It's hard to think. A couple years ago, I think they had to pick between Perry and Wayne Simmons, and they picked Simmons, and Perry wanted to be a Leaf by all accounts. It didn't happen. But then you look conversely at the Florida Panthers, guys like Bennett, Marchand. Ekblad. If you're the Maple Leafs, who would you be interested in right now?
So it's funny. Marchand's pretty well guaranteed he's going to get term, right? That's
Yeah.
what you would have been concerned about. And I always looked at, okay, when again, are you paying for, like David Clarkson? Now he had injury situation, but you're paying for a marquee year. Jason Blake years ago, you're paying for a marquee year. You don't get that guy as a UFA giving you that kind of stuff in Toronto. So I think Ekblad. Well, I like what Brad Treliving's done with the D. I like the acquisitions. I mean, to me, I love Morgan Riley, but what's going on with Morgan Riley? Just all this, just he's your number one paid defenseman, and he has at other times shown it. Again, we need more consistency there. But I like the Ekblad. Who was the other one you mentioned? So you mentioned Ekblad, Marchand,
Bennett. Are you big into the Bennett conversation right now, Gordon?
So Bennett's going to get overpaid. Nothing wrong with that in some ways, but I think he's going to stay with Florida. I think, I'm not saying Matthew Knives could be Sam Bennett, but he seems to show a little bit of that. And you could get somebody, I believe, cheaper to do that kind of role. And again, like we go back to the sandpaper. Like that's what Brad Treliving talked about, having snot and sandpaper. And I go back to Zach Hyman and Nazem Kadri, just two excellent guys that have, one's hoisted the Stanley Cup, one might this year. He's in the final for the second time, even though he's been injured. So I just think those are kind of the next tier player. The society complains that they're squeezing out the middle class, but that's how the Leafs have operated. They squeezed out the middle class, like they basically,
True.
and so now with the cap going up, and if you have the Marner money available, and also, I mean, things like the Tanev contracts were excellent contracts. Like by giving him more term, he took less of a cap hit, and that is giving Treliving more flexibility, and that was an excellent pickup.
Mm-hmm. You talked about guys. It is so frustrating when the Leafs sign a guy who just came off a marquee year in some other market, and it would be pretty tough to expect him to do it again, let alone bring him into Toronto and expect him to be even better than that. A guy that's proven himself to a degree and knows what this market is like is John Tavares, another veteran type of guy who's going to take a haircut on his AAV. I know they're trying to change the DNA of this team, but do you think John Tavares is a guy who should be coming back? At what term and money do you think? And where does he slot in this lineup if he does actually come back?
Well, he had a really good season. And, the guy made the big move. Like, really, he's a vilified for life. Yeah, you ask what's Mitch Marner's going to come back as a Leaf. And here's a guy that was Mr. New York Islander, and he took himself being vilified to come home. So I believe they will work something out, should work something out. I was never big about him being the captain. And I think, I'm sure he can be part of a leadership group. I just think, because he's pretty serious meat and potatoes. I don't know if Austin's the right captain or not. I mean, they certainly they challenged him to be like Connor McDavid. Okay, Connor McDavid's wearing the C in Edmonton, and, we think that you can assume that kind of mantle. So, it said a lot team what John Tavares did. And then he goes out, has a hell of a season. So you're just talking earlier about the veteran type players. Now he's not 40 years old, but yeah, think about him for a number one overall pick who wasn't the great skater, because normally that's the number one thing that dominates. When he used to come here with the Islanders, I loved watching him do everything right. The greasy areas, all the things that he did right. And I enjoy watching him do that with the Leafs. And I want him to be back, and I believe he will be back.
Gordo, you were the youngest GM in NHL history. What's one lesson you learned that still applies to today's front offices?
Surround yourself with good people is number one. So don't surround yourself with yes men, and then ultimately, when I say go with your gut, talk with, but make your own mistakes, okay, rather than listening or being coerced. So I'm saying one thing is you surround yourself with good people. Don't let them talk you into something as well. That kind of thing that you make the final decision. And there's no secret why. I mean, look at Jeff Jackson in Edmonton. Like, he's about as quality a guy as I got to know during my time with the Leafs. And look what Bill Zito's done in Florida. And that it's no mystery that the gold standard franchises, always have started really at the top. Now in Detroit, it's a bit more of a struggle right now because they've been one of the gold standards. But by and large, those would be the couple of things that still apply in 2025.
Mm-hmm. Gordy, if you were still the general manager, what would your number one priority be right now?
I'd be rich now and I'd be retired, right? That would be the thing. I think it's funny because I don't know if I would have used the term DNA, but I think it was a very apropos term from Brad Treliving, talking about a changing of the page and a turning of the page. So that would be to let's get those guys you talked about with sandpaper and snot. And again, I keep going back to Hyman and Kadri. I mean, that ship has sailed there, but who are those kind of players out there? Like Florida, while the Leafs were, going to pass Boston and Tampa Bay, which you can argue they've done on both counts, Florida was in the rearview mirror. Oh, my goodness. They get Tkachuk. They get Sam Bennett. They get Sam Reinhart. They get Verhaeghe. They get Montour. And it goes on and on. Like all of a sudden they added all these guys, just like where everyone else was sitting. And so that's what happened. Toronto stood pat with a game plan, and Florida went and found those kinds of players. You don't do it overnight, but, bit by bit, they made those kind of moves.
I think it's a mentality too. And I honestly think that could be unlocked a bit now with the Shanahan era ending, taking nothing away from Brendan. I think it was just time to move on. You bring in Tree Living, year 2 of Craig Berube, and bringing in players that are more suitable to the style that Craig Berube plays. I think will be big, benefactors moving forward, I think, for this franchise. I wanted to leave you with this question. I always love asking former GMs and people around the league, what's a trade or signing from your GM days that nearly happened but didn't, or anything surrounding that era that almost happened, like so-and-so almost became a Leaf? You got any stories?
So I talked about it with Joe Sakic when he got inducted a couple of years ago. So I wasn't GM. Like I wasn't GM a long time. I know it seems like it because I talk about it incessantly. But anyway, I was there. I was there in the front office in one way or another for 14 years. And the draft, I'm getting it right, 87, that we were picking 6th overall. And John Brophy was our coach. And he had way too much influence as a coach because the owner, Harold Ballard, liked him. So we are going to pick a defenseman, Luke Richardson, 6th overall. We feel, that's going to be the case if everything goes well in the first 5. And anyway, it did. So we've got Luke. And then I got to give Floyd Smith credit. He was our chief scout. So he makes a last minute kind of pitch for Joe Sakic. And Joe, and all of a sudden the table's like kind of up in arms, like, holy crap, Joe, whatever. And anyway, John Brophy is going nuts because he doesn't like small centermen. It's you think about it, it's absurd a coach is even involved in who you're drafting, but he had the ear of the owner. So I always give Floyd Smith credit that he put it out there and sure enough, and Sakic wasn't even the first pick of the Quebec Nordiques. They took Brian Fogarty and they had a second pick in the first round. So I think he went about 16th or whatever it may be. And all these, I just always think about that, and anyway, c'est la vie. Probably I'm sure it worked out better for Joe Sakic in that regard, but that's what I remember.
I'm not going to sleep for the next 2 weeks after hearing Joe Sakic could have been a Toronto Maple Leaf. Gord, great story. I knew you bring the heat in that question. Appreciate your time. Always great talking Maple Leafs hockey with you. I still can't believe years later, removed from doing the job with you, we're still talking about the same shit, this damn core 4, Gordo.
Well, evidently not. We are, but evidently maybe not for the big term. But anyway, always enjoy your guys' show and appreciate being on.
Thanks, bud.
Gord.
Take care.
See you guys.
There is Gord Stellick of NHL Network Radio again, as mentioned. Did a couple years with them doing Leafs Nation coverage, pre-intermission and post. Great time. Big ass Leafs fan.
John Brophy and Harold Ballard.
Dude.
God. Oh my God.
Gordo's got, like, if you just sit down, and Gordo's got books out there, but like you just sit down and talk about that era with Gordo, it's amazing. Like he'll bring up random stories. Like he's so quick on his feet with that. That's why I ask those questions, because he's got an answer, man. Like to think Joe Sakic, like think about that, man.
Seriously, man, that is fun. I like that you ask those things because talking to those inside guys who are like, how about this one? This almost happened. You're like, what? Like the things that never got through and never leaked and never or got forgotten or never reported on the first time is pretty hilarious. But going back to that Ballard days, it's the Wild West, man. That guy was so impulsive. It was it sounds like an absolute rodeo. It would be fun to read. I could go read some of those books and whatnot because there's a lot of juicy stuff from back in that time.
Oh, I wish, man. Imagine social media was a thing back in that era. You'd hear like a crazy story every day from the Ballard administration. But anyways, thank you to Gord Stellic for dropping by at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It's time now for the crispy hot take of the day, presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable glass air fryer.
Meet the first of its kind. The Ninja Crispy Portable Cooking System. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand. So you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
It is an all-in-one system. It includes 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass containers and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is thermal shock resistant and go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-size air fryer in the palm of your hands. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. Cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container. Max Crisp, bake, air fry, and re-crisp with the Ninja Crispy. You can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. Visit their website in the link in the show description or check out ninjakitchen.ca. You ready for today's hot take, Rosie?
Hit me with Vicky's hot take.
Toronto's biggest offseason need should be finding a true power play quarterback. How do you feel about that one?
Ooh, like, is that D-man or what?
Yep.
What are we thinking here?
Essentially, yeah. I think he really wants an upgrade over Morgan Riley. Not to speak for producer Vic, maybe correct me, Vicky, if I'm wrong, but he would like an upgrade on Riley running that power play.
Sounds like that is the case.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I would love to snap my fingers and have that too, and have our power play percentage go up drastically and be more consistent. It's just kind of sad to me that with the personnel on there, we're thinking that our number one priority is fixing the power play. Like, look at who's on it. Like, that drives me insane.
I know. You're
that's
so right.
Like, if that's your priority, you should have like this graveyard dust bowl of a power play that just is like, oh my God, look at these guys. They're not capable. They don't have the minds. They don't have the vision. They don't have the skill to get it done. We need to upgrade. That's our number one priority. That would make sense to me. It's this friggin' $60 million power play. And it's like, our priority needs to be to fix this. It's like, well, are you kidding me? That's really upsetting, because do you know what it's going to cost to get a stud power play defenseman when our defensemen already look, solid, and that's not really our problem? It's frustrating. So I get where Vic's coming from, but I think up front is where we need to spend money, is where our depth comes up short. It's where our identity and DNA, it comes up short. So I don't know. To me, those guys need to figure their shit out on the power play. There's plenty of skill enough. You can't be going and getting a $9 million defenseman to fix your woes when there's already that much money on the power play. It's just absurd.
Would you be interested in Erik Karlsson at like $7 or $7.5 million bucks? From my understanding, for everybody's understanding, surprise, surprise, we talked about this when Dubas goes and pick up Karlsson. They are open to trading Erik Karlsson, and it's going to have to be a haircut included, some salary retention. Would you take a sniff at Erik Karlsson at $7 or $7.5 million bucks per season?
Oh, maybe. I mean, you just wish Morgan Riley was what he was kind of advertised as and what he's shown he could be in the past. Obviously, things change, and so then you got 14 mil between, 15 mil basically between him and Morgan Riley, right?
Yeah, he's got his contract's done, Karlsson, after 26-27, so he's got 2 years left in the deal.
I'd have to look at his playoff numbers. Like, is he a performer in the playoffs? What's he got left? Why is he, Dubas was loving him and now it doesn't. Like, why?
That's a lot of money for a guy. Like, yeah, he can run a power play, but you're so right.
Exactly.
Like, why are we even talking about a power play that possesses all these snipers, right?
That's kind of my thing. You bring him in and you got to log him, and then it crunches your. I don't think it solves the problem. No, I don't think that's enough to solve your problem. You're not going to go win it on the power play because of Erik Karlsson. You got enough skill, enough money there. They need to figure their shit out. Maybe, I don't know. But my attention on changing the DNA and what went wrong in Game 5 and Game 7 of this year's playoffs is not a power play defenseman, if you ask me. I think it needs to be spent elsewhere.
I would add for example, if Aaron Ekblad tells you on July 1, I would like to be a Toronto Maple Leaf, or I'm interested, I would try to do it.
Yes.
Worst case scenario, you can move out a guy. Benoit could be your number 7. There's ways around it. We've learned early on here in the offseason that Morgan Riley's not going anywhere for the time being, doesn't want to go anywhere. But there's nothing wrong with strengthening the blue line even more, if that makes sense. But if Ekblad's there and he wants to do it, I would strongly consider that, I think.
If I went into a playoff series right now watching the Maple Leafs with Ekblad, I would be licking my lips thinking, oh, baby, there's that DNA change that they're looking for. He would contribute to that. Erik Karlsson, not so much. I remember going up and it was a scrum and I was kind of late to the party and I just grabbed the first guy I saw. It was Erik Karlsson and he squealed in a high pitch, boy, don't hit me, don't hit me, don't hit me, don't hit me. And then I was like, easy, buddy, easy. I'm just here. I'm not going to hurt you kind of thing, like a little mouse in the corner. And he was like, oh, thank God, Rosie. And I was like, man, what's it like to play the game that scared? I'm not knocking him, but he doesn't have that identity and that DNA that we're looking for. He's very finesse, very kind of soft. And yes, he's very skilled. I'm not knocking him, but he's what we're looking for. And I want more Ekblad over Karlsson, if you ask me.
That shows you right there that fear is real, even in 2025 in the NHL. Like, I know it's long removed since you played, but man, that is crazy to think. A guy they paid 11.5 sheets a year to, scared of a scrum.
I was thinking to myself, man, how do you play that terrified? Like, he was genuinely terrified. And I was like, holy fuck.
You're a big boy, but you bring it up a lot. Like, even there are ways around getting yourself out of a scrum. We see it all the time. And I think, I don't know if you want to call it cadence, but players around the league know the run through what happens during a scrum. Like, it's not very, it doesn't happen very much where a guy goes in there with intention to actually do something, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, to play your whole life and understand how it works. I mean, you're not a tough guy. You're not starting the shit, but to stand there and put your arms around a guy, and if he gets his hand in your face, you turn your head and get your hand up in his face and just kind of the old shove off until it's over. It's not really hard to do. No one's like, it was like he thought it was like the early 80s where Wendell's going to be on top of him, double fist destroying him in an all-out bench clearing brawl. Like, it's not that, dude. Just go in there and hold on to a guy and just have some wits about you.
Yeah, you always bring it up. I mean, even there's ways to get yourself out of a fight. There's ways to get yourself out of a scrum. But to hear a story like that, especially a guy like Erik Karlsson, but yeah, so I'm not on board with Karlsson coming to Toronto at this point. But he's an option. I would have liked Montour. I know he ended up in Seattle. We had him on a couple weeks ago, but a guy like Montour, I think Ekblad's a perfect example. If he's available, he's a guy who has ran the power play before in Florida, and maybe. I just think a right-handed shooting shot, Rosie, and we really haven't seen it aside from John Klingberg, but he was nowhere to being healthy. I think could give that power play at the very least a different look. Comes a power, like a quarterback, from the blue line.
Who's that? Sorry, I missed who you said.
No, I'm saying like I think the Leafs could benefit from a different look of a power play quarterback on the back end, with like a right-handed shooting guy.
Yeah, I know. It's everyone's looking for a right-handed shooting defenseman who can run a power play and play big and mean. It's just like they're the unicorns, and I think they're as valuable as they've ever been nowadays. Yeah, it's just tough, man, because there's a few things you'd like to address. There's only so many guys coming down the barrel. There's only so much cap space. There's only so many moves you can make. I would love to see Tree Living pull something off that no one's even thought about, like not the general.
Like Carlo. Remember Carlo came out of nowhere. We didn't expect that.
Yeah, that's true. He's very capable of it.
Yeah.
Somewhere where no one's talking about. As soon as it breaks, you look and you crunch and you're like, holy shit, this is really smart. This makes a lot of sense. Like something like that, like some kind of a taking a contract off someone's hands who's got a bunch of RFAs coming up and need to get the cap room or something, and making some kind of a sly little deal where you took advantage of a situation and made it work, and everyone's going, holy, I never saw, like something like that we don't even think of. I would love to see Tree pull something off that's kind of outside of the box that just makes so much sense for this team. I think after seeing what he had to say, as Gord said, it was kind of surprising that he said that. He put his cards on the table, knowing where his head's at. I feel like I am on board with him knowing what needs to change about this team as far as the stuff we talk about every day. I think he's got it. Like, I trust in Tree Living and want to see if he can pull something off here.
Rosie, we found some video of you hitting Erik Karlsson. You want to see it?
Oh, okay.
Producer Vic's got it.
What the hell was that?
Well, there it is.
What does that mean?
You just dropped him.
Oh yeah, then Chris, or no, who's this?
Mike
Oh, yeah.
Fisher.
Fisher cross-checks me right in the face. Doink. I didn't even hit him.
You went down, eh?
Oh, he's acting pretty hurt. All right. Yeah, Fisher cross-checked me right in the mouth. I was like, is that allowed? Like, can I do that or no? Different rules. I get it.
Yeah, when you're handsome like Mike Fisher and you got the wife he does, you can do whatever you want.
Is that what it is? God damn. Good for him.
Very well said. Want to get in the action for Stanley Cup playoffs at Bet365? They got you from game props, player props, totals, and the money line. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Must be 19 or older. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit ConnexOntario.ca. Any way you're leaning for Game 3 tonight in Florida?
Yeah. How do you not take the over? I think
know.
I'm taking the over. These guys are making plays like it's going out of style. Is there a conversation, do you think, that's going to start about maybe Bobber not having his best stuff right now? I mean, I'm not hanging everything on him. He doesn't look brutal, but there's more than a couple in the last 2 games where I'm like, I thought he probably would have been there for that one. Kind of on his glove side mostly too. Anyways, Stewie Skinner looks great, but we know I just don't know about. There's always that question mark about him, but he has been great since he hasn't been, and I guess I can't lean towards him getting away from that. I got to give him props, but this team just, I don't know. I think it's set at 6.5, which is a little bit high, but it's plus money on the over. Scored 9 last game. I mean, they hit the over in like the first fucking 12 minutes last game, didn't they? It's they are offensive juggernauts. I'm taking the over here tonight.
Because as the series progresses, I think we're expecting lower scoring hockey, especially as you get closer and closer to a game 6, a game 7. But I think right now it's wide open. Yeah.
Not these guys. It's going to be an absolute fireworks show again, I hope. And if one goalie has a hiccup, it's going to just flood.
Yes, sir. Rosie, great job today. Back in the mix tomorrow. We got Andy Petrillo from Amazon. Long time covering the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. I think she covered you back in the day, no?
Yeah, for sure. She was one of the regulars. Was it Leafs TV? I think it was Leafs TV she was working for. Yeah, she was great. Always kicking around the room and having a BS, and was super friendly, knowledgeable, and good at her job. And by all accounts, still kicking ass with her new gig. So it'll be fun to have her on and talk a little Leafs.
And so Andy Petrillo on tomorrow's show. I'd like to thank Gord Stellic for stopping by today's podcast. Thank you to everybody in the chat at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Thank you to producer Vic. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.